Good morning. When I was younger, I really wanted to get so adapted to the morning that I could wake up and in a split second be ready to go. Like wake up and start sprinting and then, finish a 4-minute mile and be like, good start to my day. And feel good. I wanted to be so ready because I noticed that oftentimes I'd wake up and I was groggy or something. And you know what? In hindsight, I think a lot of that is how you train yourself. A lot of it's where you start, so your natural sleep habits and your natural tendencies. But then a lot of it's how you handle that, right? So because honestly, because of the family I grew up in, and because of the lack of discipline that I had, I called myself a night owl. I also felt more awake at night, but because I was so busy in a large family and there was a lot of craziness going on, when everyone else started to go to sleep, I finally had some peace and quiet. So I think it was I felt like I could think clear, and my whole life kind of just gravitated towards the later night because that's when I had my time. So that's how it worked out for me. But in adjusting to the future and where I'm at now, I'm along the middle of the way. I wanted to have it both. I wanted to be a late night person and an early morning person. And then that didn't necessarily work long term. So the principle of sowing and reaping lends itself to let's go ahead and sow sleep first, and then you get up early and you sow first. And to make it more applicable, it's like prioritizing, right? You get after the things that are most important first. So if you get up early in general, although people can be successful both ways, I have to be honest to the statistics and say they do show the majority of morning people being more successful, more disciplined. The morning people can trust themselves to follow through, whereas late night people, if you were to categorize it by those two, and I think it's just the general thing, the productivity, when the people that get things done in life, the people that go where they want to go and that they're on top of their stuff, is because they're responsible, because they go after it early. The people that put it off is the end of the day. So I do think that people have natural dispositions towards things. I think a lot of it is their environment they grew up in. But you can change. Everyone can change. The truth is we're always changing, actually. So the question is, how are you changing? Are you changing to make yourself think that you can't change? Is that your narrative? That as you get older or as you go through something, you say, oh, this might be too hard for me, or oh, I don't, I went through some pain, so I don't think I can do that. Are you narrowing your perspective of what you can do as you go along, or are you changing in a way where you opening up your horizons, seeing how people are growing and learning, seeing how traumatic injuries and accidents and all sorts of pains and physical things in life are being overcome through mental training, through physical training, through emotional healing, through intentionality. There's always change. So how are you changing? Because I want to change in a way where I can get up in the morning and feel good about it. I went through a season in the morning where I woke up and I just didn't feel good. And I think I finally figured that one out. So as I got busy, there was a lot of busyness in life. And I wasn't prepared like I thought I was for it. Getting into a relationship, playing sports after high school, moving, looking for career options, connecting with communities, prioritizing hobbies and everything, like where everything fits, then having kids and everything in the mix of, as Brian Buffini calls it, living life in the blender. Living life in the blender. How does he say it? He's from Ireland, so it's fun to hear him speak. Shout out to Brian Buffini. I think he has it. It's a Good Life is what the title of his podcast is now. But he's a brilliant businessman, and he understands some really timeless truths about existence that are really helpful for life and just refreshing. But yeah, so life in the blender. And I think what happened was, if you're not okay, if you don't have peace all the way down and back up, if your heart doesn't have peace, your head doesn't have peace, your body won't have peace. And when you wake up, for me, I think that's when I felt it the most, like something's wrong. Because I just slept. Sleep is supposed to be very refreshing and a resetting. And as your body and your brain resets when you sleep, you should feel great to start your next day. And I realized one of the things also was my narrative to myself, my words to myself. What was I talking to myself? My self-talk. I wake up and say, like oftentimes my first internal thought was like, God, why is it so hard? Or something like that. Like, I don't know. No, that's not necessarily bad, but when all I did every morning was like, from this, like, the one thing I did believe was that I was having a really hard time, or that I was really struggling, or whatever, or that I didn't want to get up. And there's a lot of reasons, right? If I'm staying up too late, then it's harder to get up in the morning because your body needs rest for so much. So much. It's so important. We don't have like, make sure you breathe this many times today or whatever, because it's just automatic. But we do it for sleep because we live in a culture where we decided to try to try to be God a little bit and take away the sleep that we need. Let's have places open all night long. Let's have jobs that work at night. We live in a complex society. It's not like anyone set out to do that specifically necessarily, but as things develop and whatever, that's just where we've got to. So you have to be really intentional with it, because it'd be hilarious now to say like, yeah, don't breathe for a couple minutes, because like, who needs it? And yet, who knows? Don't count it out. Crazier things have happened. So where am I going with all this? Well, glad you asked. I'm talking about the topic of sleep. And there's how you wake up in the morning. There's two major factors that I see here thus far. Number one, is your just where you're at. What am I saying? Your current position. And by current position, I mean kind of like on a map. And that's a metaphor to explain the family you grew up in, the habits you developed, the reason you developed those habits, the desires you had, Some people really wanted to get up early and get after things, and they got ambitious with it, and it was good. Or maybe they had negative experiences in the morning, or vice versa, negative in the evening, or positive in the evening. And so, whatever it was, there's all the sorts of factors that would play into it. But it's your environment. It's where you grew up. It's what you practiced, and a lot of those things, as we start to get older, we don't realize are specific to us. So we relate to other humans all the time, but some of those situations are very specific. Some of those situations are very specific to us, in that we don't really realize as kids, because we are born egocentric. We're very much like learning ourselves. We see the world through our own eyes. That's just who we are. We're born as an individual. And yet we don't realize that our specific individual self was born into a family, and our family is different from every other family that was ever born in some way or another. Your own experience is so unique to you and your parents and your or your upbringing, or whoever you lived with as you grew up, your guardians, your friends, your grandparents, your family. And that's what's crazy. And then as you get more and more self-aware, you start to realize, oh wow, the beliefs they had weren't always spoken, right? If something happens and then your family treats like everyone avoids something, like that thing that happened, no one talks about it, then there may not be a manifesto on the wall, a sign that says live, laugh, love, and avoid when this topic comes up because it's shameful and we don't want to talk about it. You don't have those on the wall, although that would be hilarious. And if someone does that, you should give me 10% cut of all the profit. But I'll sign. We'll make an agreement here. But yeah, we'll get together in business. Okay. But those things are there. Same with the good things too. If you grew up in a family where you had the most affection and praise from your parents or siblings when you acted a certain way, then you would act that way a lot. And then as you get older, let's say you act that way in a different environment and you don't get the same response, and you start to wonder what's going on. And then you start to become self-aware of this, and you're like, you might have an identity crisis. Like, who am I? I thought I was this person, but really I just acted this way and took on this identity because that's the way I was felt most loved. And you're like, who am I really? And so, one, environment is a huge factor, the way you practice and grow up. Two, kind of becoming aware of that environment, self-awareness is hugely important. Then you're actually able to take steps forward to what's next. And then three, for me, from my personal experience here, I was feeling awful in the morning because something was off, and I need to realign my priorities in life. I need to realign my heart. There was a season there where I was pushing hard, or running hard, but I wasn't running towards something. I was running away from things. And that's the season I woke up a lot with no peace, feeling like something was off. I'd have lots of dreams where I was running away. And it's really interesting. It's like, oh, that is a subtle yet very obvious if you look at the thing. Okay, you're having dreams for months and months. Okay, you don't feel all right when you wake up. What does all this mean? You actually look at it and you say, okay, something's not right in your life. What's wrong? And to assess that, I get to the bottom and say, here's where I'm at. At the core of everyone, there's something that they give themselves to the most. And I believe it was Friedrich Nietzsche who said, I'm paraphrasing now, you can't escape the God space for everyone. Even if they don't believe in God, they will have a space where they treat something like God. If it's they treat themselves like God, or they treat happiness like God, then something is their God. that they give the most of themselves to. Protection, safety, pleasure, whatever, a sport. A lot of people will live for one thing as the most, because you can't get away from the fact that there's something for everyone motivating strongly. And so for me, I had to realign that. What was actually the thing? Was I letting fear, all this stuff? And thank God I'm on the other side of that. And it's why I'm even talking to this teleportation device, so that you can hear me and you can look at your life and say, yeah, I want more. Do you want more than where you're at right now? Do you feel like something's off? It doesn't have to be. We don't take the time to be self-aware in our culture, and we are way more intelligent with ourselves than we give ourselves credit. If you want a secret code, you want to hack, pull out a journal, buy a journal, get some paper, actually sit down and ask yourself why questions, and just write. There's no right or wrong answer. Don't get caught up on that. Just write. Put something down. Start explain. And enjoy diving in to the process. Write how you feel. Don't avoid it. Walk yourself through it. And sometimes you need someone else to be with you, because you don't know how much you avoid it. You don't know how much you don't see where you're really at. And so if you have someone else beside you to help kind of course correct and get back, like, no, why is this? And then you write stuff down, but then you ask them, how do you see this? And they say, well, I see this and this, and then you can think about it. It's so helpful. So get into it, do that. And honestly, beyond all this, if you genuinely put your full self, sit somewhere, get away from the noise, the crazy, put your phone down, or put your distractions down, and grab your notebook and sit there and honestly ask God. Just say, God, I need your help. Will you help me? Ask the questions, write them on the paper, and start writing answers. Start writing what comes out. The answers will start to surface over time. They're not always a question and answer. A lot of it's a journey that we've got to go on to. And at the end of the day, though, are you going to have that peace? It's if you take the time to address if you do have it and where it's at. And if you do that work, that's your part. Because the beauty of this reality we live in is this world didn't make itself. Neither did we. And it's truly rare and beautiful, even just to exist. And so I believe with all my heart there's a maker who loves us so dearly that there's no shame or condemnation in that relationship, and that we can step into that if we have not yet, simply by saying yes with as much as ourselves that we can give, like the best of our ability, our whole self. Yes, like, here I am. He is a maker. It's just brilliant. Just brilliant. Look at this. All right. I hope you have a really good day.